what's going on today, guys? I know it's been a minute since I made my last video, but I've been in the process of moving into the new house, as well as got a new daily. It's kind of a shit box, but gets the job done for a daily. But today's video is going to be removing the engine, transmission, and transfer case out of my Bronco. And I already got started off camera a bit, but I just pulled off the front core support, pulled off the front grille, headlights, all that stuff. And now I'm just removing drive shafts, exhaust, and I got to pull the cross member underneath. Already got the engine mount nuts taken off the bottom side, got the accessories taken off the front. The reason I'm pulling the engine today is the rear main seal. This truck sat for about 4 to 6 months while I was rewiring it, and then the seal must have gone bad. The rear main seal must have gone bad. So the next time I drove it, it started pissing oil at the bottom, and the oil was getting on the exhaust, and there's just a huge smoke cloud coming out behind me while I was driving it. So today I am going to be pulling the engine, and the engine's going to get torn apart. I got an engine stand, engine hoist for it. So tearing apart the engine, going to fix the rear main seal. Also, South Carolina sucks, has an insane amount of humidity. There's just rust everywhere. There's even, I can't really see it, but there's even light corrosion on my aluminum heads. But I mean, this shit's just rusted to hell. I'm missing a bolt there, so I gotta fucking fix that. But another thing I need to change is my harmonic balancer is so rusted that I can't even see the timing marks on it. So I was trying to adjust the timing the other day and kind of do that, but my engine block is all rusted to hell. Valve covers aren't too bad, but there's corrosion on my Holley EFI unit, so hoping to strip everything down and maybe make some powder coating videos for you guys. But yeah, so I'll set you guys up on time lapse, and we'll get to pulling this engine. All right, guys. So as you can see, I have the front side of the front drive shaft taken off, and now I just have to pull off these 4 bolts on the rear part of the front drive shaft, and then pull the rear drive shaft. And there's 8 bolts there. And then I got what I'm hoping I can do. I haven't ever pulled out the engine while it was connected to the transmission and transfer case. So what I'm hoping I can do is I'm hoping that I can just pull these 2 bolts going into the cross member mount, and then maybe get enough upward tension with the engine hoist that I can come under here and just kind of lift this out of here, because these bolts are connected up into this rubber mount, and then these are just nuts on it. So I'm hoping I can push these studs up and through the cross member and then just slide the whole thing out. All right, guys, so it's the next day. I wasn't able to finish the other day because we finished moving into our new house, but I have the engine hoist hooked up to the top of the engine, and I was trying to pull it. Unfortunately, I don't bench enough to push this transmission and transfer case up out of the slots here. So I am going to have to remove these bolts on this cross member here, and then I should be good to pull this engine out. The only thing that I haven't disconnected is the main power wire to my starter up there, but it would be a lot easier to do it once the engine's a little bit further out of the truck, and I got a little slack in that wire, so I'm hoping I can pull the engine out a little bit and then disconnect it, and it should make things a lot easier. And then I'll catch back up with you guys when the engine and transmission are out of the truck. All right, guys, so made it this far pulling the engine out. I had to end up pulling out the cross member, I used some bricks and shit to stop my transfer case from falling down. A little bit ghetto, but I didn't have a floor jack yet, so another thing I had to do to get out, I had to remove the headers, unfortunately. I was hoping, which this is the first time I've removed the front clip of the truck to pull the engine. I was hoping with that extra space I might be able to wiggle it out with the headers in. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, but I do have ARP header studs, which makes the job way easier than the stock bolts. Stock bolts are an absolute pain in the ass to get out. So right now I'm just having to disconnect my transmission lines right there and right there that just ran up to the front to my cooler, and then I got to disconnect the main power line and signal line for my starter. But other than that, the engine is coming out smoothly. I had to disconnect the shifter cable where I connected there. I believe that's the only stuff that I had left to disconnect the engine. So I'm gonna set you guys up and finish pulling this engine out real quick. Alright, so I'm just going to pull off these trans lines real quick. Nice part about not having any fender liners in the truck. Just get right in there. It's probably going to piss transmission fluid all over my driveway, but that's fine. I'll worry about that later. These bitches are on there tight. Ooh, nice. Yeah, this one might need loosened a little more. So this transmission I have in this truck is a broader performance built trans. It's a C6, fully rollerized, has a 4,000 RPM stall converter in it. Full manual, reverse full manual valve body, has a trans brake on it. Updated input shaft, output shaft, other basic mods like that. This transmission is good for 1,200 horsepower. Oh, how's it going? Oh, you're good. My wife's inside if you want to head in there. And of course, it's pouring transmission fluid all over the driveway. Sweet. Anyways, just gotta pull off these battery connections right here real quick. One thing I need to get around to doing on this truck is, oh shit. I need to get around to putting a high torque starter in it. This motor makes 10.5 to 1 compression, which isn't a crazy amount of compression for a high horsepower motor, but this starter just absolutely struggles with starting this motor. And I've rewired this whole truck. It has brand new wiring throughout the whole truck, so I know it's no fault of a corroded wire or anything like that. Brand new starter solenoid. This starter is basically brand new as well. So this motor also has a couple issues with it, possibly a burnt exhaust valve, which is another reason I'm pulling it. So no matter what, these heads are going to the machine shop because I have a new solid roller cam for this. It's getting new valve springs, and it's getting new solid roller lifters. This currently has a hydraulic roller cam setup in it, which is good for streetability. But I just wanted something a little bigger on the cam size, something to flow a little more air. You could tell this engine was a little bit restricted on airflow. I mean, not much, but so I'm trying out a new cam setup. Alright, so finally got the engine and transmission separated. As you can see, the transmission is still basically new. It probably has about 20 to 50 miles on it since it was built. It still looks new. But you can see there's some engine oil down in there from where the rear main seal was leaking. But this thing, I just got to pull off the flex plate and the torque converter. Then I believe I should be good to toss it on the engine stand. And once I get it on the engine stand, I will update you guys again. Alright, so I just took off the flex plate and the torque converter, and I found a little bit of carnage. So this truck's only been driven about 50 miles with that new trans, never even launched it, used a trans brake, none of that. As you can see right there, that's a centering hub for the torque converter. Snapped off in the ass end of the crankshaft. As you can see on the back side of this, and this is supposed to be like a ball or billet torque converter. So that is no good. So I'm hoping the company that I got this trans and torque converter from stands behind their product. If not, it's gonna suck. So I'm about to get this thing on the engine stand right now. Got fucked by Eastwood. Got this thing, this engine stand is supposed to be an easy turn. Well, first it turned hard, and then something snapped inside. Now it doesn't even spin. So I guess I won't even be able to spin my engine over, which is awesome for disassembling the motor. But again, hoping, I guess I got terrible luck with breaking shit, but hoping they stand by their product and get me a new one. It's starting to get dark, so I'm trying to get this done pretty quickly here. Get this motor brought inside the garage. It has a full manual reverse valve body. So when I tore apart the engine and took the torque converter off, I found that the hub of the torque converter is broken off. So that's not supposed to happen. So I'm not 100% certain what's caused that yet, but I still have to tear into the bottom part, or the bottom end of the motor, figure out if there's something there that could have caused it. From a couple ideas I have are that the line bore was bad, or possibly something happened with the crank getting out of balance. That's about the only thing I can think of that would cause that hub to snap off, because that hub really shouldn't be carrying any sort of load. The hub is just, here I'll show it to you on the back end of the crank where the hub is still stuck in there. So I'm gonna have to weld something to that and try to pull it out, or I might just have the machine shop do that. Like I was saying, that is not a torque bearing component. It's only used to center the torque converter on the crankshaft, keep things in balance. As you can see, I got the heads off. These are hydraulic roller lifters. None of them look collapsed. They're all in good shape. So this truck, like I've said multiple times, has been sitting for a little bit. So this most recent time it sat for about 6 to 8 months. I'm not sure if you guys can quite see it in there. Yeah, you can see it there. There's a little bit of corrosion, super light, like not enough to catch a fingernail on, There's a little bit of corrosion in some of the cylinders on the cylinder wall. This is probably the worst cylinder over here. God, I wish I had a light for y'all, but so that cylinder's the worst, but all the pistons look good otherwise. No sort of corrosion in the distributor cap or anything like that. You can see how much corrosion I have on my harmonic balancer. I couldn't even read the timing marks on there. So I have a brand new harmonic balancer. Let me just move this out of the way. I have a brand new Innovators West billet timing pointer, as well as an aluminum billet aluminum harmonic balancer from them. Got the turbos there, but those probably won't be going on anytime soon. I also have the new solid roller cam there, as well as the lifters around here somewhere. Where are they at? Alright, I'm not sure where the lifters are at, but they're somewhere over there. You can see on the heads, everything looks good. On the bottom side of the heads, look like a pretty even burn. This one just has a little bit of oil on it, that's why it's a little darker. This head looked good as well. The head gaskets looked good. Didn't see any sort of signs that the head gaskets were starting to fail. Nothing like that. There's a little bit of rust in the coolant. So you can kind of see a little bit dripped out of the intake there. There's some rust in the coolant just from sitting for so long. So I've gathered my list of parts that I'm going to need before I put this engine back together. Some of the things I need are, ever since I built this motor, I've never had the proper bolts to hold this harmonic balancer pulley on, or crank pulley, whatever you want to call it. And so I need to buy those. That could have been an issue with the crank causing it to be out of balance. Another thing is, gotta take the heads to a machine shop to get the new valve springs installed, because I don't have any way to check for seated pressure and stuff like that. As well as I want to check the heads for any sort of warping. I don't believe they're warped, but wouldn't hurt to have them checked. Engine is going to go to the machine shop to get line board. See if the deck needs redecked. The block's going to get stripped again. The block's going to get powder coated because it was just painted with high temp paint before, but as you can see, it's no match for the South Carolina humidity. It's still rusting through that spray paint, so the block's going to get powder coated. I might switch out distributors, not exactly sure yet, because I do eventually want to switch over to a distributor that is locked out so that I can control timing with my Holley EFI unit. I got to make a new bracket for, well, let me turn over this intake real quick. I need to make a new bracket for my throttle cable. I made this one out of too thin of a gauge of sheet metal, and as you can see, it kind of flexes around. So when I go full throttle, it would kind of, it wouldn't be able to open the throttle plates all the way because it would flex. So I need to do that. I'm gonna get new plugs, new plug wires, just easy stuff like that. Gonna send back out my torque converter to get the hub re-welded back on there. I have a brand new flexible transmission dipstick tube, because where this one winds up, when I have it bolted in, this ends up into the back of my valve cover. As you can see, this is the one from the passenger side, and you can see all the paint chipped off there where it was rubbing. I'm going to be getting new headers So I'm still not exactly sure what I'm going to do. If I'm just going to get a new set of regular headers just to get rid of these. Not only are these ones rusted, but they've been welded on multiple times. The old V-bands on there are warped, so they don't seal. The ports are also too small for those trick flow heads. But I really don't want to fork over the money for some new headers and not have them be headers that'll work for the twin turbos. So, not exactly sure how it's going to work in my budget, but the truck might be getting the twin turbos put on this next go around. Another thing I got to do is I got to clean up this Holley unit a little bit. Got some light corrosion on it. I'm going to get a new ignition coil. That one, the terminals are just rusted on it, and I've had that thing on the truck for a while. Been through some water with it, so I don't necessarily trust it. The stock starter is having trouble starting the motor, so I'm going to be getting a high torque starter. I want new valve covers as well, but that's something that doesn't necessarily need done. And other than that, it's getting the new cam. I'll have to pull out the cam card so that I can give you all the specs on that. I'll do that in the next video. But it's getting the new cam, solid roller lifters, and new valve springs. I'm getting a new crankshaft for it as well, because this crankshaft, back in high school, I spun a rod bearing and had to have one of the rod journals on the crankshaft machined 50 down, had to have it machined 50 thousandths down. So I had to get 50 thousandths oversized bearings for 2 of the rods. And I don't necessarily trust that. And this is just a cast crank, and I want to get a billet crank. That all seems tight. But that should be about it for this video of tearing into the 418 stroker on my 96 Ford Bronco. The next video you guys are going to see on this, I'm going to be pulling out the crankshaft, the pistons, the rods, checking all the bearings. I'm going to be pulling out the lifters, pulling off the water pump and timing chain cover. And then I'm going to be cleaning up the block a little bit, getting things ready to head off to the machine shop. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I hope you stick around for the next one.